What's up, my friends? Beautiful people. And we already got 10 people in the room out of the gate. I did not expect that many people. And I got Amazon packages delivered. Oh, man. Look at all these beautiful people. Good to see it. 28. Man, look at this. By the way, friends, as you all probably know, we will get this thing rolling on realtor time, which means we'll get rolling in a few minutes. I'm going to put some lotion on my hands. It's that time of year where it's getting nice and dry and the hands are getting cracked. So good to see a ton of you guys. Let's see here. If you all don't mind, type in the chat if one, you can see me, and two, if you can hear me. Somebody just type in the chat if possible. There we go. Thanks, y'all. Sometimes the good old Zoom just isn't working like I think. So look at that. Woo, we got a responsive group today. Must be a room of ISAs in here, huh? Not many agents? Just kidding, just kidding. I love you agents out there. Love you. I have to throw in some shots from my ISAs. Gotta throw them some love. Y'all get all the accolades and the ISAs get none of it. So don't worry. All right, one more minute, friends, and we're gonna get rolling. One more minute. Look at that. ISAs, gosh, yeah. You know what I could say is if you're an ISA, raise your hand or put something in the chat, but I'm seeing a ton of those ISAs. Look at that. Ooh, ISAs, good, good. Look at that. This is the most ISAs I've seen in a room in a minute. Usually we're all like trying to hide out in our own little places a lot of times. So, oh man, of course it'd be a digital room. That's the way it rolls. All right, friends, we're gonna get rolling here. One more minute. Let's see here. I'm gonna turn my phone to airplane mode so we don't get rudely interrupted by some random phone call from some random salesperson trying to sell me some junk I don't want. By the way, funny thing, I know a lot of you guys are followers of ours, and we talk about how phone calls just don't get answered like they used to. I downloaded the new update on the iPhone yesterday, and one of the things that popped up today when I was getting a random phone call was a notification while I was getting called saying, if you want to filter out calls, this wasn't the exact wording, but if you want to filter out calls like this in the future, go check this out. In other words, my iPhone identified that I was getting a spam call, right? An unlikely or unknown number, whatever it was. And it literally prompted me, gave me an Apple nudge to go turn on the blocker so I could literally block people's phone numbers. So, or not answer things like that or block it out. So it's coming, friends. We started talking about this years ago, the joys. All right, y'all, we're gonna get started today. Looks like we got about 50 people, a lot of ISAs. You are my people. Good to see you all. Super excited to share the numbers behind some of the top producing ISA departments in the country. I am your host and fellow ISA, fellow nerd, as you all can tell. Today, Robby T. For those of you who don't know me, my last name is Trefethen, which sounds like a pharmaceutical drug with all those problems and none of that cash money. So I got to work for a living. Let's be real. I wouldn't have anything better to do with my time anyway. So I love spending time with you all. I always jokingly say I got to get this stuff out of my head so I can keep my marriage. That way I don't have to sleep on the couch. So I appreciate you all carving out some time. And I promise you, I'm going to do my absolute best to create some value for you all today. A couple thoughts for you all. First off, we're going to probably save the last 10, 15, 20 minutes for questions. We'll probably go the whole hour, but we'll have about 30, 40 minutes of content and questions. Completely up to you if you stick around. So feel free to type your questions in either in the chat, or I believe there's a question section. Yeah, there is, Q&A. Preferably under Q&A. Chat for chatting, questions under the Q&A, and I will not answer them right away, but I will make sure to probably answer them towards the end, unless it's really easy for me to answer. I might punt. All right, friends, so let's get rolling. Let's start here. As a lot of you all know, I do not like good old PowerPoint, so you're going to see my face, and I might share my screen at some point. We might do that. We'll see. Here's what we need to start today. First off, we've got to talk about what in the world is an ISA. For my ISAs in the room, I think I'm going to get some amens. Feel free to type that in the chat. Feel free to do that whole emoji with the, ooh, you know. Feel free to do the preach emoji, all that good stuff. So let's start here. What is an ISA? Of course, an inside sales agent. That's common. But let's talk about what an ISA in real life is. You see, this is how I've defined an ISA, and I've done my absolute best to try to articulate this to rainmakers. The ISA role is a lifestyle. It is a production-based role, just like an agent. All right, the difference is instead of nights and weekends running and showing homes, an ISA is running to their phone to answer a phone call or to text a lead back. You see, the ISA role is incredibly difficult to fully check out of. It truly is. That's why I call it a lifestyle and production-based role. Before we go any deeper, let's talk about what an ISA role is not. Now, you might define an ISA differently. That is okay, but I want to give you my definition. In my world, an ISA role is not part-time. What I mean by that is it is not somebody that's working 15, 20 hours a week. It's not even just full-time. It's not 40 hours a week. It's far beyond it. Here's why that's so key, by the way, friends. In this day and age, what we're seeing is the micro-fracturing of conversations taking place, right? That's what text messages are. It's taking what typically would be condensed into a 5, 10, 15-minute conversation, and it's breaking it up into small bite-sized pieces. What we're seeing is leads will text you back when it's convenient for them. And here's one rule I can tell you about it. It is absolutely unpredictable. You have no clue. All right, they could text you back at 8 a.m., 2 a.m., 7 p.m. And here's what I can tell you is within reason, what we're seeing is speed to lead doesn't matter like it used to. Speed to lead, right, by definition is how quickly are you getting to a lead. That's becoming less and less important. Why? Because you can automate it. I can literally use automated systems to text you immediately. Speed to lead goes from used to be days in some cases now to immediately. Now, not all messaging is created equal. It's why we've created products that help people chase leads, all that fun stuff. But here's what we're seeing become the gold currency in lead conversion is no longer speed to lead, although that's utterly important. It's now speed to response. In other words, if I have an ISA who is only working Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, right? And there's nothing wrong with that person. It's just a bad match for what we're talking about as the ISA role. If a lead texts back at 8:30 on a Friday night, and that ISA is not going to respond till Monday at 8:30, might as well just, I don't know, pull some cash out right here. Look at that. I'm a big baller, by the way, pulling out ones. Might as well light it on fire, right? That's what you're doing. The reason for this is we live in an age where it started with social media, with Snapchat. Consumer demands are so much like Veruca, right, from Willy Wonka. I want it and I want it now. That's how they roll. And really what it comes down to is in our world, our ISAs are our database ninjas. Their full responsibility is to take the lead on our leads. Their job is to make sure and act as the insurance policy to cover our leads. They're the ones that are there to stay in front of, be responsive to our leads when they raise their hands, when they respond. They're also proactive in creating conversations. Some people have heard me say that calls and dials are dying, which I absolutely believe because I don't put my head in the sand and deny reality. But we still do call leads, and I still advocate for it, depending on the market you're in and depending on when you want to start calling your leads. That's a different webinar for a different day. If you have questions on that, let me know. But really what it comes down to is the ISA is the front man for all of this, or woman. They're taking the lead on it. They're the point person. They get the responsibility, which is the biggest reason why it's not just a full-time job or a part-time job. Leads will text you back at all times, and within reason, you've got to be willing to respond. Now, I'm not saying that if a lead texts you at 2 a.m., you need to respond at 2 a.m. I'm not saying that. But if a lead texts you back at 2 a.m. on a Friday, I fully expect my ISAs to text that person back Saturday morning when they wake up or shortly after they wake up. Why? Because it's in their best interest. It's in the lead's best interest. That's in the company's best interest. Now, here's what's cool. And we're going to talk about some numbers here in a little bit. Because I know a lot of you came here. What are the numbers? I'll get there. Promise you we'll get there. What it really comes down to is once you have multiple ISAs, that pressure really subsides after you have 2 ISAs. So once you add a third or fourth, it's still a lifestyle role, but it's nowhere near as, how the best way to describe it? It's nowhere near as all-encompassing. You actually get leverage once you have multiple ISAs. If you have 1 or 2 ISAs, let's just say a prayer for them because they're in the thick of, I never get to check out. I promise you, once you have multiple ISAs, that day will come. It gets better at 2, even better at 3. In our world, my ISAs probably work at this point probably 50 hours on average per week, and they're able to check out. But this is something you have to build towards. It doesn't just happen overnight. One more thing. This one gets me into trouble sometimes, so sorry, not. I don't like VA-based ISAs. Now, this is not a knock on the VAs at all. It's truly not. They're great people. It's not on the VA companies who are trying to solve the problem, which I have tried myself. And by VA, what I mean is externally based ISA companies. That's all I mean, right? It could be someone, frankly, I'm in Fargo. It could be somebody in Atlanta. It could be somebody in Texas. It could be somebody in the Philippines. I don't care. What I will tell you is when we talk about ISAs, everything you're about to hear is not people that are externally based. What we're talking about is an in-house ISA that is in the trenches with you. They are side by side with you. They are in your office. Obviously, maybe working from home. I mean, I work from home all the time. That can play, again, conversation for a different day, but it is somebody who is immersed in your culture. Here's why I think that's so crucial. Number one, a lot of the conversations we're going to have with leads are so locally based, right? Lead conversion is local. Lead conversion is local. It's local in the sense that I could take some of the best ISAs in the country and have them start calling into a market outside something they're familiar with. And all of a sudden, the best ISAs in the country become very remarkably average. Here's why I know this to be true is we've done it. We've done it before where our ISAs, who are the best statistically in the country, again, we'll get to numbers in a little bit, and we beta tested doing it for other teams in the country, and it didn't work. Now, it didn't work for a couple different reasons. Number one is it is so crucial to have a local understanding of the people in the local market. For example, if I take somebody who's a really great ISA in Fargo and have them call it into San Diego, which is what we tried doing, they're 2 totally different monsters. My ISAs, no offense to them, they would never know anything about San Diego. No matter how much they would research it, They don't have the institutional knowledge that people have in San Diego simply from living there and waking up there every morning. My ISAs can't relate to the sports teams, to the stories, to the taxation. They can't relate to these things. Just like if I take the best ISAs in the country and have them call into Fargo, the moment you ask somebody, do you want to be in North Fargo or South Fargo or West Fargo or East Fargo, where do you want to be at? That sounds normal until you say that in Fargo, because if you say that in Fargo, there is a North Fargo, there is a South Fargo, there is a West Fargo, but there is no East Fargo. You see, East Fargo is the state of Minnesota and a city called Moorhead. And all this stuff, the stupid little stuff, is the stuff that makes you look insanely stupid on the phone when you mess it up. So this is the big things that you have to be chewing on. I've found that an in-house local ISA is the easiest way to expedite that local conversation because people wake up with that knowledge. They see it every day. They relate to the struggles of their people. Don't even get me started about somebody who is not at all based in the United States. That becomes even more difficult for somebody. It becomes more difficult. So that's first thing. Secondly, another big piece about the ISAs is ISAs hold people accountable. They hold agents accountable. They don't just set appointments. They also hold agents accountable to doing the right things. It is incredibly difficult to do if you're not locally based. Not impossible, but sure as heck takes a lot more work and effort. It's a lot more difficult to hold somebody accountable when you don't have a relationship. End of story. So for us, what it really comes down to is we are massive advocates of an in-house ISA department. But you got to hire the right people. That, again, webinar for another day. If you're interested at all in building an ISA department today, if this stuff is appealing, it's something you want to go and do, we have a whole module on our website. It's called, go to hatchcoaching.com as it sounds, go to trainings, and there's how to build an ISA department. Go check it out. Basically, I took what I used to coach people for 90 minutes on when they're building an ISA department. You can go sign up for it and learn all of it. And you get access to me afterwards, ask questions as well. So there to be a resource. So go there, check that out. Let's start getting into numbers. I like to talk numbers. All right, we're gonna go all over the place here, friends. Numbers all over the place because I like them. Let's talk numbers. First, let's talk about the most commonly asked thing. I ain't gonna lie, friends. The whole point of today is answering a lot of questions so I don't have to answer them anymore on Marco Polo or Facebook messages or on posts. You can just learn it here. Number one is, how do you pay an ISA? First off, how you pay an ISA is, of course, market specific. It depends. It depends on your team. It depends on your price point. It depends on your gross commission on average. It depends. Here's what I generally say, though, is our ISAs are paid a small base salary, and then they get commission on every single deal that closes that they procured for the team. That commission rate is the same whether it's a low-hanging fruit lead or a nurture lead. I'd write those two things down, low-hanging fruit or nurture. We're going to come back to it. Their commission rate is the same. To be very, very clear on this, their commission split number is not paid for by the company. That comes out of the agent's cut. There is no right or wrong number here, by the way. Generally, though, the range we see is an ISA is getting paid 5 to 10%. So I'm just going to call it 10% for an example here, because a lot of people mess this up. When an agent closes a deal, let's say an agent is traditionally on a 50-50 split. When an ISA is involved, what happens is the company still gets their 50%. The ISA then gets 10% of the true commission coming in, and the agent gets the remaining 40. So when we say the agent pays the ISA cut, The ISA is getting a full 10%. It just comes out 1-for-1 out of the agent's percentage. Some people say, well, how's that fair to the agents? Like, how's it not fair? Usually an ISA is teeing you up with a filtered opportunity that they've chased or they've built a relationship with, or they set up, they chased the lead down, they converted, they responded, they texted, and they're literally scheduling usually a strategy session or an in-person appointment. It's the whole idea of quit worrying about the percentage and start worrying about what you're going to net, right? That's what makes it fair here, is that if you can ask agents, hey, you don't have to chase company leads anymore. You just walk into layups from your ISAs. Is that fair to you? Usually it's pretty fair. So that's the first thing, right? The first numbers that I wanted to get at. Let's talk some more numbers real quick. Let's talk about ISA production by year from ISAs. This is, again, what we've seen in our business, what we've seen in some other businesses, and some other top ISA departments throughout the country. Usually your first 6 months as an ISA, you are lucky as heck. First 6 months to see 10 closings. I would write that down. First 6 months, 10 closings. Your subsequent 6 months, you're lucky if you're going to see 50-ish more closings. 50-ish. That brings your total first year closings to 60 closings, best case scenario. People ask me this, well, why is that? Help me understand why not sooner. It's very, very simple. If I'm an ISA and I crush it today and I schedule an appointment today for an average buyer, they're probably not going to write an offer in a home that gets accepted for a month, month and a half. It's going to take another month and a half to 2 months to close. We're looking at 3 to 4 months until my first home run that I just hit closes. These things take time. Here's where people have gone wrong, is they oversell this position. They over-glamorize it. They overpromise. Rainmakers overpromising the results. It takes time. Your first year being an ISA, let's just be real. ISAs in the room, feel free to put this in the chat if you agree. Your first year sucks, especially your first 6 months. It sucks. You work your tail off and you're getting half of the reward that you should be getting. But here's what I'll tell you, almost always when you go and talk to the top ISAs in the country, that 12-month mark hits and things get easier. Again, I don't want to just tell you numbers, I want to tell you why. It's very simple why. You finally have a pipeline that subsidizes your closings. You finally have a pipeline that subsidizes your closings. So not are you just finding opportunities in the leads you're chasing, that's kind of the lower hanging fruit or the stuff that's wanting to do something now. You're also having all these follow-ups that are hitting 6, 9, 12, 18 months later. Here's what's really funny. Jim is the top ISA in the country on our team. There's a few of you that are gunning for him, I ain't gonna lie. But Jim is consistently the top ISA in the country. Jim on our team has closed over 1,000 transactions. He's averaged 175 to 205 transactions for 5, 6 years, something like that now. And he's been in the game for 7 years. All right, he's the OG of all this. Here's what's funny. Jim is no longer obsessed with lead conversion, friends. Jim is into crypto. He's launching his own cryptocurrency. And that's becoming his main hustle, which is awesome. It's so cool to see Jim love that and be able to play in that passion. Here's what's really cool is between Jim's pipeline and the automation that we built in Sierra, last year, Jim said to people at our summit that he kind of feels guilty because he's working 10% as hard as he used to as an ISA, and he's seeing the same amount of closings. What's funny is Jim will close between 180 to 200 transactions again this year. And what he said in an offhand remark scares the hell out of me, but excites the heck out of me. It's that he works 1% as hard as he used to. That is ridiculous to hear. Do I think that's going to affect Jim's pipeline at some point? 100%. I'm sure. But really what it comes down to is this role is all about building a pipeline. It's identifying people, putting them in the pipeline. It used to require, the ISA game used to be very, very simple. We would just overcomplicate it. It was, you are digging for gold, right? ISAs, that's what you're doing. You have a pile of dirt, you're digging for gold, and you shake it, you put it through a sifter, and the dirt falls through, and you keep the gold nuggets. Now, some of those are gold nuggets that convert today. Sometimes they're follow-up gold nuggets. And the old school lead conversion game used to be about scheduling manual follow-ups. It's the only way you used to be able to chase leads as an ISA, was you would have manual follow-ups reminding you to follow up with the lead at a later point, which leads me to a really crucial number you all need to write down, which is 1,500. 1500. 1,500. You see, what we saw was after an ISA had between 1,200 and 1,500 follow-ups in their pipeline. Follow-ups, by definition, are people that we've connected with that we are going to follow up with in the future. Not a random lead you have not contacted. That is not one of the 1,500 I'm talking to. That's completely different ball game. We're literally just talking about 1,500 people you have follow-up scheduled for in the future. Here's what we saw was an ISA couldn't go above 1,500. Not without massive leakage in their pipeline. You couldn't go beyond that because you wouldn't be able to balance putting new things in the pipeline while maintaining the follow-ups in your pipeline. Something had to give. Either you would stop generating to unconverted opportunities, you would stop reaching out to new leads, putting them in your pipeline. It's self-regulated, almost always at 1,500. That has changed massively. Because of the automation we built in Sierra, well over 80% or so of our follow-ups now no longer go on manual follow-ups. That's for us, that's for a lot of our ISA teams. Instead, the follow-ups are being put on fully automated follow-up plans that follow-ups on behalf of our ISAs at the 1 month, 2 month, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18, or 24-month mark. In other words, 80 to 90% of our follow-ups are no longer manual. They're automated. I'll be very transparent, friends. I have no idea where the ceiling is now for somebody's pipeline. I have no clue. It could be 5, 6, 7, 10,000 leads. My gut tells me it's going to be between 8 and 10,000 leads will be the ceiling where you can't keep up because so many people are consistently responding that you'd have leakage again. It's a hell of a lot more than 1,500. That's where Jim finds himself. I think, I don't know the exact number, but he has well over 5,000 leads in his pipeline, a ton of them on automated plans, and he uses automated plans to stay in front of people. And I'm just telling Jim's story. I'm not taking any credit here. Jim is the OG. Jim is the original gangster of lead conversion. And what it really comes down to is with follow-ups, if you're doing it manually, you're going to cap out at 1,500. With automation, I don't know where that ceiling is. All right, let's keep going here. So ISA production by year. I told you your first 6 months, 10 closings. Your second 6 months, another 50. That will vary. Great ISAs might be 10 to 20 more. So they might do 70 to 80. An ISA that still hasn't found momentum might be 10 to 20 underneath. So instead of 60, they might be at that 40-ish number, 40 to 50. Usually, give or take. Year 2, what we see is whatever the ISA did usually doubles. So if an ISA did right around 1 or right around 70, we'll see them bump up to 140 to 150. Again, that comes down to having a pipeline that is subsidizing what you're doing. In other words, it's the seeds you planted years ago, and now there's fruit to be born many months later. I want to give an example of this. Again, I never had automation, never. I was not blessed that automation existed when I was an ISA. And when I got out of production, I saw another 150 deals go to close, even after I got out of production. Why? My pipeline kept working itself. It kept cashing in. In other words, the only way you'd ever know how many people are actually in your pipeline is you stop doing anything and leave the business. And that's kind of what happened to me. I moved into coaching. I started coaching people at a really high level. I stopped producing. I stopped doing it myself. And I got to see, man, there's a lot of money that just keeps paying out for years. That's honestly impossible to quantify. But your year two, you double what you did in year one, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then at year three, what we see is it goes up another 50 to 70. My story looks like this. My first year was 67 closings. Second year was 169. And then I got out of production 3 months in to my third year. That's when I started coaching people. And I still closed 155 deals that year. And about 50 more after that. It was about 500 total, give or take. Forget the exact number. In other words, tons of closings kept coming in. Someone asked, do you have an ISA contract you can share with us? Do you have them sign a 1-year minimum contract? Well, let's actually get to something real quick. All my ISAs, before we hire them, they're all licensed. So my ISAs are licensed real estate agents who never sell homes. So just so you all know, I highly recommend it. I recommend ISAs get their license for 3 reasons. Number one, that way you can pay them part of the commission and not worry about being audited. Number 2, that way they have a base understanding of real estate. Number 3, it sucks. It's not fun. It's resistance. I want ISAs who are willing to go through a little bit of hell to earn the job, to earn their seat at the table. Here's what's interesting is going into your license when you're not going to sell real estate sucks. Costs money, takes time, but if you're not willing to do that, you're probably not going to take the job seriously. So on the front end of things, Kim, to your point, I think you need to be a lot more deliberate about hiring and finding the right person who's bought in. Do not rush hiring an ISA. If I want to hire an ISA, it's usually a 6-month process. 3 months for me to find the right person, offer them the job, go through the process, 3 months for them to get their license, give or take. Maybe 4 months into, but plan on 6. Send me an email if you want our contract. I'm more than willing to share that with you. It's also, you get that a part of that training module I told you all about. But email me, ROBBYT, RobbyT@hatchcoaching.com, or reach out to our website, Facebook me, all that fun stuff. But email me or else I will 100% forget. All right. Sam asks, how many agents are you closing these numbers for a single ISA? Woo! Good question, Sam. We're going to get to that in a moment. All right, we're going to get to it in a moment because the answer is not easy to give. Last thing then, I usually see ISAs kind of limit out around the 200 limit, 200 deals per year. I think I would have hit 250 if I would have stayed in production that third year. I think someone is going to hit 300 at some point, especially with automation, who's fully bought into producing. I definitely think the ceiling for an ISA is 300 deals per year. That allows me to move in to the next piece. How many agents do we have for those ISAs? We have built our model so much different than most. For us, we have built our whole real estate business on 2 different models. One is the ISA model. That's what we're talking about today. Secondly is our showing partner model. All right. Shameful plug. You can go check out how to build the ISA or build a showing partner model. We're doing a whole boot camp on it. Eric and Connor, our lead trainer, is doing that. That's on our website, hatchcoaching.com. Here's what I can tell you about showing partners. This is very, very simple. Most real estate teams, in order to grow your agent count, which the reason you grow your agent count is you need help servicing more opportunities being created by somebody, whether those opportunities are coming from the rainmaker, from the top down, or from an ISA because they're creating it and chasing leads. It doesn't matter. We hire agents to provide service to those people. That's the general mantra in real estate is we need more capacity to service people. Let's go hire agents. And you can either hire agents with experience, which oftentimes leads to headaches because they have preconceived notions and they're really difficult to train. No offense, agents. Or secondly, we hire brand new people to the industry, people with no real estate experience, which they might be A-level talent, but man, they are D-level experts right now because they have no clue what they're doing. In other words, what it looks like is this, is you have established agents on your team who probably convert at a 7 or an 8 or 9, right? Over here on one hand. And on the other hand, you have this brand new agent who converts at a 2 or 3 at best. Let's just take those numbers. Established agent up here, new agent down here. Here's what we figured out was, man, this doesn't make sense really for anybody. What we found was, instead of having this person come in and be an agent and really struggle for 6 to 12 months, burn out of the industry well over 50% of the time, more like 75% of the time, what we realized was, wait a second, how do we create more capacity for this person? They're killing it. Well, the biggest limitation is their time going towards their current clients. When you go and look at the numbers, the time is almost always in maintaining the relationship and helping the clients find homes. So we're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. Let's do this. Why don't we pair this person with this person? So in our model, if we want to expand our capacity, what we did and continue to do is, you want to expand capacity, we advocate this on our coaching or in our whole coaching company is, don't go hire more agents, leverage your agents. Help your A players double their capacity by getting them leverage, getting them a showing partner who can leverage that all off their plate. But here's the fun part, friends, is it's not just the agent who benefits from that. The showing partner does. For a year, they get paid a base salary. We're not going to go into all those numbers. Again, I'm going to breeze past this in a moment. But what we found is that this person becomes a far better version of themselves when they're not thrown into a high pressure situation where they sink or swim. Rather, they get a paid internship where they shadow an A player, and eventually, guess what? They become an A player. Repeat. That's our whole model. In other words, to be very frank, friends, ISAs, you want to know who your best friend is? The showing partner model. Let's just be real. My ISA friends, you know this pain. There are some agents that you would much rather give opportunities to over others. Now, if you have some agents, if you're like, man, I'd rather give myself to the new agents, I almost guarantee it's because your seasoned agents are too overwhelmed to do the right things. They need leverage. All right. So when people ask how many agents, for us, I can only speak from my own experience here. I think you have to, it really depends on your agents, depends on their desires, depends on their leverage, depends on your model. In our world, our average agents are going to sell well over 50 homes, probably 60 homes, give or take. And consistently, half the business comes from their own SOI. The other half comes from our ISAs. So you just work the numbers backwards. What we've generally seen is there is almost like a ups and downs where our ISAs aren't producing enough, and then our ISAs overproduce for our agents. And in our world, what I'm really trying to get at here is, instead of asking how many agents do I need, you need to be thinking about how many deals are my agents wanting to do, how much are they willing to work. Here's what I've always seen. Here's a magic number. Agents usually top out about 40 deals without leverage. They top out about 40 deals per year without leverage. If they want to break through the ceiling of 40 deals per year, they got to have a showing partner. Some people will go beyond that a little bit, but if you want sustainable results, it's going to scale even further. Showing partner is key. All right. Let's go to the inverse of that. People always ask, how many ISAs do I need? How many ISAs do I need? I'll come back. Somebody just asked about appointment set. I'll come back to that in a moment, just so you know. How many ISAs do I need for the amount of leads coming in to my business? General rule is for every 350 to 400 leads, I want one ISA. 350 to 400 leads. If it's a lot of low-hanging fruit is things like Zillow or Realtor.com. It's people that are raising their hand a little bit higher. There's a lot of that. You probably need less leads to keep them busy. If you're doing a balance of half PPC in terms of true monetary spend and half property inquiries, it'll be right around the 350 to 400 number. If you're doing just PPC, you're going to have to spend more to keep them busy, to create opportunities. I like splitting it. For the last 7-8 years, yes, good question, Mark. 350 to 450 incoming leads per month when you have a full-time driven ISA like we've been talking about. Those are per month numbers. We've generally split our ad spend. We've done a lot of other random things, radio, television, random stuff. But the consistent thing in our business has been buyer PPC and Zillow. Our spend always fluctuates. That balance has almost always been about half and half. Sometimes it, becomes more Zillow than balance at 50-50. Of course, spending 50% on each really leads to you getting way more pay-per-click opportunities compared to a Zillow opportunity. Depends on the market you're in. Pay-per-click leads usually cost $10, $15, $20 depending on the market. Zillow leads are usually hundreds, or if you're in Flex, you're paying a referral fee. That's a totally different ballgame. But what it really comes down to here is I like diversifying. I like giving our ISAs a combination of low-hanging fruit and pay-per-click opportunities. Buyer PPC, not seller PPC. Kim, send me an email and I'll literally give you an outline exactly what we spend. I don't know it off the top of my head. Last time we checked, we were well over 10, 15,000 on PPC. And I want to say over 25 on Zillow. That's where we're at. Now, let's get to some numbers here real quick. In terms of conversion rates, our conversion rate on pay-per-click leads is right around 4%. It's been as high as 5% and dipped down to 4%. 5 to 4%. Right now, right around 4% to close. The average buyer PPC lead for us is closing not 6 months later, not 12 months later, but 640 days from now on average. That's the not fun part about PPC, is a lot of it takes follow-up and it takes time to convert. Here's what I'll tell you, is what I love about PPC leads. Almost nobody chases them a year later. Almost no one. And there's a lot of opportunity there. The thing that stinks about low-hanging fruit is you're competing with a lot of different people. A ton of different people chasing the same leads, because people never look at homes on one website. So again, we're at about 4 to 5%. Industry average is right around 1% on buyer PPC. I think if you have an ISA department, you should easily, pretty quickly get to 2% and up to 3 to 4%. Next, low-hanging fruit, things like Zillow, you should be at, the average is about 7%, is what I heard recently. 7% of your Zillow leads would turn into a closing. And that's what that means, by the way, on PPC, is 4% to close, not to appointment, 4% to close. On the low-hanging fruit side, Zillow, 7% average. We're right around 17%. I'll be very, very frank. I think a lot of people lose their tails on Zillow leads. Lose their tails on it. I've seen teams that literally lose money on Zillow, even if they're converting 5%. So it's not that uncommon, it's kind of painful. Your desired ROI on a lead source should always be 2.5 or 3 to 1. When we measure ROI, we make sure to measure true ROI. What that means is, what is the ROI after the cost of goods are taken out? In other words, we're only taking into account the 50% that's coming into the company, minus the lead expenses. So if you're paying flex, you got to take that out, right? You got to make sure you're looking at your ROI properly. It can't just be how much revenue is coming in. That's an inappropriate way to look at your ROI as a business. That's where I think a lot of people misunderstand their Zillow ROI. Is they'll say it's like 6 to 1, and I'll say, okay, cool, give me those numbers. And sure as heck, it's not taking into account that, well, half of it or 60% of it goes to their buyer agent. You're not at 6 to 1, not even close. So take that into account. All right, next, real quick, let's talk about one of the last things, and I want to get to some of these questions here. And if you want to start typing your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, you can definitely do that. But the last thing is I want to talk about set to met, met to committed, committed to pending, and pending to close ratios. Set to met, met to committed, or for some of you, contracted. So under agency agreement or listing agreement. Committed to pending, and pending to close. And what you should do is you should have 2 different columns. One for the buy side, one for the sell side. Because they're much different. Here's what we've generally seen is our set to met ratio on the listing side is right around 90%. 9 out of 10. Set to met on the listing side is 90%. Set to met on the buy side is more like 70 to 75%. I've seen it high as 80% in some places, but 75% is what I generally say. I don't think it's feasible for you to get above that on the buy side. There's just more reasons for people to flame out or flake out with the buy side of the business, naturally. So you're gonna have some more, especially if you're buying pay-per-click leads. All right, so 75% on the buy side, set to met, 90% on the sell side. Our met to committed or met to contracted, depending on how you use that term in your business, met to contracted on the sell side is like the inverse, it's 75%. On the buy side, it's about 90%. In other words, when we meet with buyers, we're earning their commitment almost every single time. Actually, 90% is pretty conservative. It's usually more like 95%. We get in front of them, we win them over. The sell side is where we leak. The reason for that is we generally list at 7%. We literally filter out people if they're not the ideal clients. We'll do an appointment with them. But sometime what we will absolutely do is filter them out. So we list at 7% and we take a $4.95 admin fee. Traditionally, we're willing to concede on some of those things, but naturally we're going to lose some people. And we don't care. We know our ideal clients, and we're not ashamed that we'll filter some people out of it. So we firmly believe that that extra probably 10% we could take on would create 90% of our headaches, and we're in a place of abundance, and we don't want to play that game. More importantly, the other 9% of people would suffer. All right, committed to pending. Committed to pending on the sell side, 90% plus. Again, being conservative. This is being recorded, by the way. Glad that I didn't have to press that button. I would have totally forgot. You all get a copy of that. Good question. Pending, list to sell is well over 90%, probably about 95%, depending on the market. Committed to pending on the buy side. is usually 50 to 60%. That's based off of 12 months after the appointment has been set. So that number actually goes up. A really good example was me, right? I had tons of things go and close years after I got out of the industry or out of production. On the buy side, you just naturally lose people. People give up, they get frustrated, as we saw, in June, July of this year. People get pissed off and the market's too crazy. They become defeated, plans change. My story is a really good example of that. Well, we wrote an offer on a home in Irvine, California, in a place called Woodbridge. And it was verbally accepted at one point. And my wife and I were dead set on moving to Irvine, California. And then COVID came around and we became more dependent on our family. And it caused us to rethink everything. And we moved to literally the opposite place on the earth, Fargo, North Dakota. That's where I am right now. Now that sounds like a big move. We were in Moorhead, which is like 4 miles away from where I'm at right now. But instead of us moving to Irvine, California, we moved to Fargo, North Dakota. Plans change. I would be one of those people where plans just sometimes change, right? Rarely changes on the listing side because a lot more action takes place. On the buy side, things are a heck of a lot more likely to change. There's a lot more variables that impact things. All right, and then pending to close is well over 90% on the buy and sell side. I don't even have that number offhand. So where we leak people on the buy side is pending to close and are set to met. Where we leak on the listing side is definitely our met to committed. So there you go. That is the nerdiness for you all today. Let's get to some of these questions here. Feel free to drop them all. I'm going to try getting to them for you all. Dwayne Murphy, how much do your ISAs try to bat up your lending partners at the same time as booking appointments? Really good question. So usually I actually recommend your ISA should be setting up your lenders before they get them connected with an agent. Sometimes you do both, but well over, if I had to guess, half the time, we're making an introduction in some way, shape, or form, or a lot of times we're making introductions before we even set appointments. The script for that, I hate that word, but I'm going to use it. If somebody does already have a lender that they plan on working with, is I'll ask and say, got it, Dwayne. So it sounds like you're thinking about working with Bell Bank, but I got to ask, Dwayne, are you open to getting a second opinion? Someone that might be able to give you different rates. Is that something you're curious about? Most of the time, people will say, yeah, I might be interested in that. The other one is if somebody doesn't have a lender in mind, I'll say, got it, Dwayne, so you haven't started that pre-approval process yet. Let me know if it's something you'd find valuable. There's somebody who's helped a lot of our clients work through the pre-approval process. Would you find some value if I got you connected with them to just maybe see if that's something they could get the ball rolling for? So something like that. But yes, definitely teeing up lender partners as well. I think that you should work hand in hand with the lender. I think the best example of that is Mike Novak and his team and their lender partner, Mike Boyle. Mike Boyle is basically an ISA for them when it comes to all of their lender business. So it is crazy to see how efficient they are. And he works directly in the CRM. And cool thing for our Hatch system users is we are beta testing and creating lender messaging plans that we will be releasing in Sierra for people who have lenders directly in Sierra. So cool stuff there. All right, do your ISAs get paid on the appointment they set, or does the ISA get paid on the deal that closes? All right, for us, 100% it's deals that close as long as they're still on the team or in good standing. Here's my advice. When do you get paid? As a company, when something closes. I don't care about my ISA setting appointments. Be very, very frank. Don't care. I care about my ISA setting appointments that have a high likelihood to go to close and holding agents accountable to make sure they actually go to close. That's why we pay on closing. So my ISAs have skin in the game to be cognizant of what's happening, not just with the leads that they're trying to set, but the ones that they've already set. I think paying per an appointment is a very well-intentioned idea that has some really bad downstream effects. Here's what I'll tell you. Any ISAs that are in the room will probably agree with this. Their job is not to set appointments. Hell, half the job is to filter out crappy appointments that they could be setting with really miserable people or with people that are just BSers. And if I am getting paid to set an appointment, I would set that appointment all day long. Why? Because I get paid for it. I do not advocate for it. I do not like it. I do not support paying per an appointment. There's some other people that advocate for this. All I say is time will tell. The model that has shown that works well is the ISA getting paid on a closing, because it puts an intrinsic drive in the ISA to make sure the good and right things are being done far after the appointment is set. So, all right. Couple of thoughts there for you. Martin asks if this will be, does Robby have a slide deck? No, I do not. I hate slide decks, sorry. Let's see here, go to the other Q&As. 50-50 spam or 50-50 leads? Joseph and Natasha Hayes. 50-50 spend, the leads usually works out to like 80-20 in favor of PPC, roughly, if not more. So, good question. What are you doing to get around being marked as spam? There is nothing you can do about it. And phone calls, what I will tell you is texts rarely get marked as spam. So you got to be using automated texting or else you're going to die. Very, very frankly, your business will die. If I can take the gloves off for a minute. You can try switching up phone numbers. It will just get tagged as spam at a later point. Again, I started this call off by saying that earlier I got a call on here, and as it popped up, as the phone call did, literally what happened was it said, do you want to filter out calls like this in the future? So it's going to happen in this type of role. I think the things you can do to help with it is engage in one-on-one texting conversations with leads, and that will help quite a bit. So it shows the carriers that you're a very legitimate phone number. Yeah, Android's been filtering calls and texts for years, and so is Apple. It's just they're literally now giving you the option that your phone doesn't even ring, it doesn't even show spam likely. It just literally filters it out, and it doesn't even come through. And it sounds like Android. I don't know Android. Sounds like they've been doing that for years. So this is going to become more and more normal. One more thing, just a little random note before I get to the next question. A lot of people ask me about what do our ISAs do. Our ISAs primarily call and text PPC leads, Zillow leads, other random lead sources. They chase expireds, FSBOs. We do not do any circle prospecting. And actually, we do that for one main reason, was we ran the numbers that we would rather allocate our time, which is our most valuable resource, into our database again, rather than circle prospecting. But more importantly, circle prospecting is completely illegal now in the state of Florida. You cannot use a dialer to call leads that have not explicitly opted in. So you'd be literally breaking the law, and I'm very confident that law will become standard throughout the United States, not or in short time. So circle prospecting, one, it's nowhere near as effective as it used to be because people answer the phone less often than they used to. Secondly, states are trying their absolute best to consistently filter out annoying calls, and lawmakers are getting pressure to do it, and they're outlawing dialers. People ask me, well, how will that impact texting leads or calling leads that have signed up on our sites? It won't, because they have opted in and waived that right away. They have given you permission by coming to your websites or going to Zillow. So double check your websites to make sure that's the case. But with like any Sierra site, it's ironclad. They're giving you permission, even if they're on the do not call lists. All right. Keep going through the questions here. Catherine, Dito, how many of your PPC leads lack phone numbers and your ISAs overcome that? Here's what I'll tell you, Catherine, is very, very simply, a good amount do, or they have bad phone numbers. stop worrying about the dirt that's slipping through the cracks and start digging through the dirt more often, the dirt that's remaining, to find more gold nuggets. Remember, we convert at 4% to close. That means we don't convert 96%. If I had to guess, 20% is bad phone numbers or, not legitimate leads. It's just a part of it. So we do our PPC through Sierra and through Ylopo, and both have been pretty rock solid. What are your ISA's top outreach priorities when they get to the office? 1, clearing out their inbox. 2, making sure that we reach out to any pertinent new leads. 3, working any priority leads, and then working through our follow-ups. So answering things quickly because we're almost out of time. Do you mostly get leads from PPC or paid sources? Do you have any feedback from content generation? Great question. I think buyer PPC leads are really fabulous. We spend a lot on buyer PPC. Zillow's great, but the cost is going to keep getting more expensive. Realtor.com, we don't do, but I have some people that buy it, love it. But that's going to get more and more expensive. I do think that it's a fabulous idea to start doing things on social media to attract more business. Things like YouTube channels. There's a lot of people putting content out there that attracts people, whether they're doing lifestyle videos, videos of their listings, whatever it may be for YouTube, or like new construction. I think that's a really great way to get some low-hanging fruit. I would 100% think and push you all to be doing that. Some people I know that are doing it at a really high level. Let's see here. Dan Inman is doing it at a high level. Go check out our website, Hatch Realty. Just so go search on Facebook. Let's see here. There's some more as well. I can't think of any other names, but yeah, 100%. I like it. What characteristics do you look for when hiring an ISA? I'm going to punt that one in lieu of time. That would be, go check out the How to Build an ISA department. Anna, I know you have access to that, so I know I can say that without making you go pay money. The whole How to Build an ISA department, there's one whole section about what do I look for in an ISA. That could be a whole webinar. At the Hatch conference, I think Gabe from Ylopo advocate for ISAs answers all YPAs for agents. I agree 100%, unless it was an agent's lead that is one of their contracted clients. In my business, all of our leads go to our ISAs. Once the ISAs earn that right, and if we've turned a lead over to an agent, it's because that agent has been, that lead has been booked for an appointment with that agent, and that is now in their court. But I would definitely think that the ISA should assist if the YPA comes through, that they should maybe nudge that agent or make sure it gets done 100%. So, all right, friends, we're 3 minutes over. Hopefully you all found some value in this today. Lead conversion, nerdiness, the numbers time, the top ISA departments. If you have any follow-up questions, hit me up, Robby T at hatchcoaching.com or on our website, or reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, slide into those DMs, all that good stuff. So I gotta get rolling, friends. Love you all. Peace.